Season 2 of the Behind the Mask podcast is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Here at Behind the Mask, we acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are the original storytellers and custodians of the land on which we live and meet today. Behind the Mask is a podcast about sharing authentic stories. And in continuing that legacy of storytelling, we acknowledge that we're honouring and celebrating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' traditions, customs and stories. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Here at the Behind the Mask podcast, we shine a light on some distressing and challenging issues. This episode contains discussions of child sexual abuse and disordered eating. If either of these topics are triggering for you, I hope you can listen in a safe environment. Otherwise, if you don't feel like you can engage with these topics right now, I hope you can come back to this episode when you do feel safe and ready.
What was written about what happened to me was very divergent from the truth of what happened.
What was written?
This very bleak experience, that involved brutal penetration to the extent that I have permanent nerve and tissue damage to my vagina, to put it bluntly, was described as an affair.
I've had 2 moments in my life where my body has told me I needed to make a change in my life. My marriage was kind of becoming difficult. I woke up one morning with shingles.
Scott.
He did some Prime Minister thing for a bit.
I was sort of pushed into commenting about what he'd said, and I did make a comment. What happened afterwards was he set his attack dogs on me in the press, but he also sent attack dogs on me privately.
When a lot of people have opinions about you, It's quite strange to have strangers tell you who you are and what they think of you. Very occasionally there can be a comment that can be very, very personal, or something can be phrased in such a way that can get under that armour. And I hate that there's still those moments where I can actually be quite wounded by something.
I'm Josh Pitterman and welcome to Season 2 of the Behind the Mask podcast. This show is about our diverse and extraordinary guests whose authentic stories have challenged them and changed them. They'll share the tools and wisdoms they use to find purpose, bliss, and a greater sense of meaning to their lives. And together, we'll unpack and ponder some of the more pressing and existential issues facing our society. Get ready to be inspired by the depths of the human experience. It's time to go behind the mask. Carpe Diem, or seize the day, is a quote made famous by ye olde Roman poet Horace. It's also the title of the 1986 film starring none other than Robin Williams. Important fact, we'll be getting to that soon. Grace Tame is a former Australian of the Year. She is a powerful and strong activist and advocate for victims of sexual abuse. As a survivor of child sexual abuse herself, she leads by example when she says, "Your truth is your power." And despite everything she has endured, which is a hell of a lot, she still maintains an incredible zest for life and an unwavering sense of humour. Mark Humphries, on the other hand, probably doesn't have such a strong sense of humour. Yeah, he's out there, he's giving it a crack. No, Mark is a comedian, writer, actor, game show host and political satirist. You'd know him from ABC's The Roast, Insiders and 7:30. He's now the very handsome anchor of the very funny 657 News on Channel 7. So without further ado, it's time to go behind the mask with Grace Tame and Mark Humphries and see how and why they choose to seize the day. Welcome.
Oh, how
Grace
good
and
was
Mark.
that? Thank you, Josh.
No worries.
Beautiful.
Actor.
Yeah, and no teleprompter.
No teleprompter.
That's it. Nailed it.
Who put the question mark on the teleprompter? Guys, how are you friends? How did you meet each other?
Well, I mean, we've only just met about 15 minutes ago, but we...
No. You guys, it's not it sounded a bit like a dating app.
No, but
how did you meet each other?
Well, I feel like we're social media friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've never actually met in person?
Kind of friendship.
We have a vibe, though,
Yeah,
that transcends the internet.
that's it.
But you haven't IRL'd?
No, we didn't need to.
Oh,
IRL'd? Is that?
in real life?
See, I'm a boomer in spirit. I don't understand these
I'm clearly
acronyms.
Gen Z in spirit. So this is the first time.
Yes, no, this is a thrill. Absolute thrill.
Awesome.
But yes, no, we do. But we have bonded over Robin Williams. And so,
yes, you have a mutual love for Robin Williams.
It's a special interest,
Yeah.
as we would call it.
We all do, actually.
would that be your mastermind topic if you were on Mastermind?
Ooh, good question. I'd have to revisit it because a few other things have happened since I was studying Robin Williams back in the day.
Well, what
And I'm
would you...
he's kind of buried beneath a few layers of,
Trauma.
not trauma so much as information about child sexual abuse and child sexual abuse material.
Well, we're going to get to that, but let's start with Robin.
There's not a big Venn diagram between Robin Williams and child sexual abuse material, thankfully.
No, thankfully not. If you were to go back, what would be the first movie you'd watch? What's your all-time favourite Robin Williams?
Oh, so that's different. The first movie that I watched with Robin Williams and my favourite Robin Williams movie.
What would be the first movie you'd
Mrs.
watch?
Doubtfire when I was 5.
Okay, that was the first you watched, but what would be the first you'd go back to that I have to rewatch because it's my favourite?
Oof. It's very mood oriented. It depends if I was having a sad day or if I wanted to pick me up. But I think actually Good Morning Vietnam would probably tick both boxes. There's a bit of a sad element to that one, but also a rip snorter.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't go wrong with Mrs. Doubtfire. It's just solid. But Hook will always have this very special place in my heart. That's the deep cut for me, Hook.
Literal deep cut.
Yeah.
There you go. There's layers
Justin
to it.
Hoffman style deep cut.
Yeah.
Favourite Robin Williams moment in a Robin Williams film?
There's a line, I was going to save this for later on, but I can use it now. There is a quote which I think of often, which is when he's in Mrs. Doubtfire and he's in that job where he has to box film canisters and ship film canisters. And he says, do you ever wish you could freeze frame a moment from your day, look at it and say, this is not my life? I think about that a lot. I just think that to me, if I'm ever having a low point, that quote kind of helps me snap out of it. Of just sort of imagine freeze framing this moment, looking at it going, this is not my life.
Is that when you're reading like shit troll reviews of work you've done? You're like, no, it's not my life.
Who would write shit reviews of me?
No one will ever write.
No. I mean, I certainly remember having that moment sort of in like retail jobs and things where I just got so worn down by the general public. Those were my real low points where I thought of that.
Lucky you.
Sorry? No, I know. I'm sorry.
I remember working retail jobs and feeling that too, don't worry.
Yeah. I'm never going to be. I can't complain about anything, can I?
No, I'm joking.
No.
I'm just You're definitely allowed to. It's all relative, Mark.
They were so rude to me, Grace.
I worked at Politics menswear
really?
when I was 16. $10 plus commission.
Right.
Well. And my manager on the store on Chapel Street, I worked Sundays. I think he got double time or time and a half, so maybe $15 or whatever. But he pinged hard on a Saturday night. Ooh. And there were often times where he'd just go, hey Josh, I'm going to sleep upstairs. You can look after the shop. I'm like, cool. Do you have a big night? Oh, mate, haven't been home. So yeah, you look after the shop and try and sell some leather jackets. And yeah, so that was my retail experience.
Yeah, right. So you got all the commission that day. Yeah, no, I remember my first job, Leonard's Poultry Shop, $5.82 an hour. That was my $5.82.
Oof.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but yeah. What was your retail? Did you?
I had quite a few of them. Oof, going back a while now. Bet's Shoe Store, and I would open the store. I would come in after a night on the town and I wouldn't have been home and I wouldn't have had any sleep.
But you didn't go upstairs?
I didn't go upstairs. I'd go to KFC and I'd get a bucket of popcorn chicken and I would hope that bucket of popcorn chicken would absorb some of the...
And this coming from the girl who we had to delay this podcast, firstly by a day because Mark's flight got cancelled down from Sydney yesterday, and secondly by half an hour because Grace had to have ABC spread, that's Brazil nuts, cashews, and almonds on 4 rice crackers before we could get cracking with this.
This is really behind the mask now, Josh.
You've changed. You're daring. You've changed.
This is going back a while. Yeah. Look, there've been several different epochs of my life. This was a different time. This was when I was, still freshly reeling from the trauma of, being abused at my high school, and I drank a lot and partied hard and definitely wanted to escape and I did whatever I could to do that.
Popcorn chicken.
Yeah, and popcorn chicken. I was burying myself in that bucket of popcorn chicken, but it was also a great way to absorb the alcohol and other things from the night before. And yeah, I'd be behind the desk at Betts after opening the front door, just hoping that no one would come in the first couple of hours, just on a Sunday. But I had a few other retail jobs, though. I moved to the United States when I was 18 and went to a community college over there. And towards the end of my associate's degree, I was working at a French restaurant for $8 an hour. Mm-hmm. That was quite an experience.
How much was a filet mignon?
Yeah. I don't think we even had filet mignon on the menu.
Okay. Did you have a foie gras?
No.
Did you have French onion soup?
No, I think it was actually pretty Americanized food.
Oh, okay. Did you have a steak?
I'm sure there was a steak on the menu. I don't recall the exact items on the menu.
I just want to know what $8 was relative to the.
That was also quite a time. My life in the United States was very hard and fast as well. It was very turbulent. It was just survival mode for the nearly 7 years that I was over there.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I moved back here in 2020, 9 months before I was named Australian of the Year.
Right.
9 months before I was Australian of the Year, I was working in a retail job.
Yeah, right.
For minimum wage. Yeah, and it was that.
Yeah, that's quick.
Much of a jump. Yeah, and I was probably about 45 kilos. I was running obsessively, trying to, not have a woman's body. It was a very, very dark time, and then just got thrust onto this insane platform and ran with it.
We're going to go back to some of that. I want to know first.
I want to tell you what my Robin Williams moment is. I'm still thinking about it, and I know exactly what it is.
I'm going to give. So you know what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
Yeah. So in Patch Adams.
Oh, classic film.
Robin Williams is interacting with children at the hospital, and those are real Make-A-Wish children.
Yeah.
And I love watching special features of films because I'm quite a nerd, and I just love to know how the film was made. And I like to also hear from the contributors of the film that are behind the scenes.
I love an audio commentary.
Did you say you love ye old commentary?
No, I love an audio commentary. I love it.
I thought you said ye old commentary.
That's my thing. I ye old. Yeah.
Sees the special features.
That's how you see it. Yeah.
But I just love that. I thought that was I just thought that was really special that they included real Make-A-Wish children in the film. And you can see actually in the special features when other cast members and crew members are being interviewed, Robin is actually in the background playing with the children just off screen. And there's no need of that. Also a really beautiful piece of trivia is that it was in Robin's contract that a minimum number of homeless people had to be hired as crew on all of the films that he worked on.
Really?
Yep.
Fucking hell, what a guy. What a guy. I'm going to put that into my contract.
But another film that I love, because I also think that Robin would have had to have confronted some of his own demons to inhabit the character, is The Fisher King.
I've never seen that.
Beautiful film directed by Terry Gilliam, who I love, huge Monty Python fan, and also have one of his illustrations tattooed on my arm from The Holy Grail.
Yeah, what's The Holy Grail?
Anything
but the greatest film of all time.
Yes! Oh my God. The Beast of Arg. Yes. The coconuts. So there you go.
I've created a fade.
God, you're talented.
Yeah. Can I tell you mine?
Yes.
So Hook, obviously. Mm-hmm. Just love it. I shared before we went on my favourite moment from Hook with Mark, and I used his face to create a sort of Botox effect, which is what the little boy does when he's trying to work out that Robin actually is Peter, and he slides his hands across his face like this. And there you are, Peter.
And that beautiful John Williams score. It's the lighting of it. It's so
stunning.
perfect.
And when all the food comes out, and I just always wanted that dinner. I always wanted that spread.
The line I always... sorry, you go.
I was going to say, one of the jobs that I had when I lived in Los Angeles was working for a pop artist who made posters for lots of different musicians, one of whom was John Williams.
Wow.
And one of the gigs that we had was selling posters for John Williams' show, because he did all these posters for John Williams. And John Williams performed at the Hollywood Bowl, and we had a little stall there, and we're selling all these prints and stuff like that. And at one point we were able to just go out into the theatre, and we just walked out into the crowd, and John Williams is playing all these amazing scores, and he goes, "I'm just going to bring my friend out." Steven Spielberg just walks out.
Fantastic.
Hey, do you know, fun music fact before I get to my second favourite Robin Williams moment. I might have got this wrong. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that John Williams' son is the lead singer of Toto.
Toto.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
As in Africa, as in Hold the Line, as in...
I think he also sang the theme to, I want to say DuckTales or something. There's something like that.
I think, yes, or maybe it's Gummy Bears.
It might be Gummy Bears. It might be Gummy Bears.
Bouncing here and there and everywhere. Yeah. What a tune. So my second favourite Robin Williams moment
No one is listening at this point.
This is so niche. This is for about 5 people.
Yeah, but you know what? We love those 5 people.
Yeah. 3 of them are in this room.
And Braden, our producer. So my second one is in Good Will Hunting.
Oh!
Yeah. And this actually... I thought about this the other day because I saw your clip on the Imperfects where they talked about you had to pick up a card and it asked you what would you say to that
my adolescent self.
And it's when Sean says to Will in that session, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And he's like, "Don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me.
Yes.
It's not your fault." And he just breaks him down.
Yes.
Hey, when did you come to the conclusion that it's not your fault?
That took a lot of therapy to...
Do you remember that moment?
I didn't. It wasn't a singular moment.
Okay.
Because I've gone back and forth, but I've vacillated between feeling guilt and shame. And what's helped me is speaking with another one of the children who was present at the time of the abuse.
Were they also abused?
They were not penetratively abused, but they were recruited by the perpetrator as part of this scheme because it was advantageous to him to have somebody else as part of it. I mean, he put us both in the bathtub with him and, he would get our hair wet and then leave us outside to make it look like we had been to yoga and things like that. And he would talk to us both online. He had several Facebook profiles that he would make talk to each other so that it didn't look suspicious that there were these fake Facebook profiles. And, it's very common though for children who are abused in front of each other or groomed together to have this protective denial mechanism and completely shut down. But
did
we
you
also
talk together about what you were experiencing at the time? Or did you feel too much sort of
it was just what was happening. We had no other frame of reference, and it's taken years to sort of also come to terms with just how sadistic it was. It wasn't until actually 2022 when I was already a public advocate speaking very openly about what had happened to me and, using the words like child sexual abuse and, knowing that it was wrong, that I was at a conference and someone very matter-of-factly stated to me you're also a victim of sadistic child sexual abuse. And I was like, what? And she was like, oh, yeah, how he deliberately removed the mattresses off of the bed frame so that because you weren't even good enough for a bed. And I was like, yeah, right, yep, cool. And me knowing that I was abused on the floor and things like that. And then going home and realizing oh my God, fuck, it was so dark. It's things like that where it takes you ages to actually confront because you have to actually accept that was me as a child, that was my life. And same things for this other person as well. It's taken us years and we know each other. I'm not going to identify who this person is, but we're quite close. We've known each other our whole lives. And we have had a relationship, but it's like we've just always talked around that aspect of our really strong, of our really strong foundational bond. And it's only been in the last couple of years, even when there's been this huge spotlight on it, that we've been able to go like this.
And what was getting in the way of you guys going, hey, you remember that fucking moment?
I think it's because like I can, I think as human beings, like we have different standards for ourselves as we do for other people. Like I can.
As in perfectionism and.
It's more that like I can, like I'm prepared to cop a lot, but as soon as I know that somebody else is being hurt, I won't accept that. Like I won't tolerate somebody else copping shit, but like I'll internalize heaps of pain. I think a lot of us are like that, especially people who are deeply empathetic. Like we won't put up any boundaries for ourselves, but we are really quick to identify when somebody else is being treated in an intolerable way. Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Wow.
Whack!
Yeah.
Whack!
Thank you.
Well,
back in the room.
Yeah, back in the room. Hey, you mentioned that you carried shame around it.
Still do.
You still do?
Yep.
How have you learned to work through that shame, to work through that part that's not your fault? Who's helped you? You don't have to name it specifically. And how have they helped you? Like what sort of, because people carry shame for a multitude of reasons, and shame, I feel, is such a heavy burden for people to carry, but it gets in the way of so many things. How have you learned to sort of allow some of that shame to sort of dilute in its way?
Well, funnily enough, I think in the earliest days when I was really isolated and didn't know anybody else who'd had any kind of experiences that were similar to my own, before I moved overseas and, I really did feel like a pariah in my hometown because what was written about what happened to me was very divergent from the truth of what happened. What
was written?
This very bleak experience, that involved, brutal penetration to the extent that I have permanent nerve and tissue damage to my vagina, to put it bluntly, was described as an affair. That was on the front page of the paper. And in fact, after he was convicted of not just crimes against me, but of possession of reams of child sexual abuse material and a folder of girls that he'd collected over his nearly 20-year tenure at the school who were all like me, from broken homes or who lived in the boarding house away from their support network. In other words, prime grooming candidates. They didn't use the word abuse once. It was all framed as me being the aggressor or me being the one that pursued him and that it was a mistake that he made and he just slipped up.
So that the adulterous behaviour was your fault.
Yeah, and this is including like details of him locking me in a cupboard and, again, all very dark, twisted, classic grooming, like we discussed off air, of ritualistic, playing of films and music.
I didn't realise that they go to such length with ritual around this.
Yeah,
it's fucked up.
Yeah, it is. It's a distortion.
Yeah.
It's a distortion. It's not, we weren't dating, we weren't going out in public and having nice dinners. There was no equality to it. I mean, there is no equality between a 58-year-old man and a 15-year-old child who is still developing neurologically, physically and socially. It's the ultimate power imbalance. And he's exploiting my incapacity in a number of ways. But in the early days, I dropped out of high school after I reported to the principal and then to police. And there was a trial that went on. I dropped out of high school and I was just watching old films and TV shows that I found comfort in on repeat, and that included Robin Williams films. And I had connected with him at a very early age when I was 5 years old, and I saw someone who I personally believe was neurodivergent. I think that you could probably see that from space.
Yeah.
Someone who was very open about their demons, and I found a companion, at least parasocially, in that man. And
you don't have to know your guru.
Yeah, and I think laughter as well, as they say, is one of the best medicines. And it is that's like the ultimate reflex of happiness that you can't suppress. Even when you're at that rock bottom, someone makes you laugh. You almost want to, especially when you want to hold on to that sadness, you're always almost resist it. And you're like, no, I want to be sad. But you can't help but release that tension.
Because it's so present,
and it's
laughter.
It's so present. And it, you bond with the people around you and it becomes contagious. And I think that's really beautiful. But it's been really through connecting with other survivors of child sexual abuse who we can let our guard down and share a lot of these really, like the really icky details and we talk about them very matter-of-factly. Like I do have a very dark sense of humour and
I've never noticed. Never.
And, to be able to say like this stuff without any drama and it's just matter of fact. It's just what happened. That's what I know.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. It's that, like after I moved overseas, I then found myself in a lot of other similar situations where I was taken advantage of. And it was just, layer upon layer upon layer of complex trauma. And that's the life that I know. When other people share anecdotes about their intimate, interactions, they tend to be, more run of the mill, whereas I have this sort of like, my anecdotes are usually pretty out there and I need to feel like I'm safe to share these things because it's not that I'm trying to shock anyone. It's just that that's all I know. And when I'm, speaking to fellow survivors and, I've in the last year or so connected with this woman, Tanya Lee, who runs a foundation called Corrie Lee that has a podcast called the No Laughing Matter podcast, which shares the anonymous stories of incest survivors read by known Australian voices. And they've had some really powerful voices like Adam Hills and Hugo Weaving even and Craig Foster. And it's a really, really powerful project because it sort of breaks down this barrier with that familiar voice and, incest is this huge problem. In fact, it accounts for over 80% of all child sexual abuse.
Really?
And Tanya herself is an incest survivor, and her and I, she's older than me. I call her my mum, my spirit mum, because spiritually, like her and I are very, very similar people. And her and I can have these really candid conversations, and it's just so healing because we both have this like black sense of humour, and we're laughing about this stuff. Not that it's funny, but we're just sort of letting go of a lot of that shame around it.
Yeah, so you're using humour as a way to break down the rock of shame and just allow things to loosen off.
Just to dissipate, you know. And I've told Tanya some things that I just have told nobody else. And because there's some things that I cannot say to my family and to my friends, not because I do not love them or trust them enough, but because I do not want to hurt them. And vicariously traumatize them with things that they have not lived through like someone like Tanya has. And that's really important.
Yeah, you've got an ally.
Yeah, I've got an ally. I've got other allies who've also been through child sexual abuse. Like the first survivor of child sexual abuse that I connected with, or one of the first child sexual abuse survivors that I connected with, is a man named Steve Fisher. We connected like maybe 7.5 years ago. We're still friends. We still call each other maybe every week. He was actually the first Tasmanian to ever speak publicly back in 2001. And yeah, he's a beautiful man. He's the person that made me realise how, like, because our experiences of grooming parallel each other in many ways, and he made me realise that there's this really complicated process of psychological manipulation that needs to be explained to the general public because there's this asymmetry of information where it's like perpetrators know all this stuff, but nobody else does. And yeah, I'll always be really grateful to Steve for that. And
I'm so glad you found humour as your way, way to connect to presence. And I always say that presence is our gateway to bliss. So if humour is your way to find presence, then I think that's beautiful.
Is that a Josh original?
Yeah, that's a Josh original.
Trademark, don't use that. You can't have that.
Hey, I know we talked about, Robin Williams. Grace, you brought up Robin Williams' Demons. I had Celia Piccola and Sammy J on season 1. And I'm always really interested with comedians. I take it from a Jim Carrey quote where he's describing his need to be depressed as his body needing deep rest from the version of himself that he was projecting into the outside world, this inauthenticity.
Right.
And I think it's a really powerful quote. And I think about comedians a lot and the way they have this responsibility and maybe even a pressure to light up the world, yet inside that light might be really dim. Do you ever feel like a pressure that you have to uphold, like I have to be the funny guy, and when you're just not fucking feeling that?
Oh yes, that does occasionally happen, and I think I'm probably a disappointment to a lot of people in real life because I don't always want to be on. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of a lot of the stuff that I've done, I think that I am quite angry about things. I can be quite angry, and I've learnt to channel that anger into humour. Because if I was just angry the way that I can be about either things that I've experienced or just generally what's happening in the world, that sort of just me just being annoyed doesn't go anywhere. But I've tried to go, okay, well, this has stirred something in you, but can you find a way to phrase that in a way that makes your anger palatable and perhaps even enjoyable? So that's the way I think. Yeah,
political satire I think it's going to be sort of rooted in some sort of disappointment or,
yes, absolutely.
or anger towards something.
Enormously so.
Yeah.
Isn't it said that anger is just a mask for sadness, though? So you maybe need to
have you ever felt
what is beneath that anger mark.
Oh, we're not projecting. But have you ever experienced what Robin or? I just feel like a lot of comedians, is there a balance to it all? Is there? You have to be up. So is there a down to the up? Because that's the yin and yang of.
Oh, absolutely.
Life. Have you ever gone through a depression of any kind?
I'm always cautious around labels because I'm always conscious that people have had things much worse than I have. So I'm sort of hesitant around that. But yes, certainly, I think when you're putting yourself out there to the public, and suddenly, I mean, this is something even just recently. When a lot of people have opinions about you, it's quite strange to have strangers tell you who you are and what they think of you, and they don't know you. They've seen clips of you. They've heard you. They've heard little things. Well, no. But most recently, this is so trivial, but just like.
But it's not trivial because it's your life. And we're here to talk about your life.
This backlash to the idea of me telling jokes on 7 News. Yeah, it's the most insane. It's a 3-minute segment at the end of the week.
It's hilarious.
But there was this kind of, whoa, what is this? And a real anger towards it, not from everyone, but there were articles written about it and what have you. And then there's people who come and they get into your DMs and they send you nastiness. And you've got your coping mechanisms, but there's still a part of you that kind of is taken aback by it. And sometimes most of the stuff, if you've endured enough of it, when I say enough of it, I just mean this, I've been doing comedy on TV for 12 years now. So you just sort of expect that there's always going to be people that don't like what you do. But very occasionally there can be a comment that can be very, very personal, or something can be phrased in such a way that can get under that armor. And I hate that there's still those moments where I can actually be quite wounded by something.
What was one of the hideous ones?
If I'm honest, I think I've probably suppressed them now. I think I haven't held on to them. I think that's probably good. There are ones that are memorable because they're kind of funny, like people saying that I looked like someone saying that I looked like a Ken doll gone wrong. I mean, that's funny, and I don't disagree.
I think there was one about is he gonna send up the astrology report on.
Yes.
Right. Oh, wait,
Yeah. What was
astronomy? What they're doing in?
Well, there's a horoscope segment.
Segment, which I thought was pretty funny.
And then I did end up doing a joke about it. My bosses at 7 were like, "Oh, just go for it." They weren't so concerned about it. But anyway, I'm very conscious of how trivial this sounds in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, some of that sort of stuff. Yeah, being in the public eye and having people have opinions about you. Now, day to day, broadly speaking, I can't speak for Grace's experience or yours. Generally, people don't come up to you and hassle you. I don't know what's your situation been, but online,
it's always nice.
Yes, exactly.
Fuck, I've had bad reviews.
Yeah.
And the good ones are like steroids that come in and you get a whack of sort of dopamine and validation, and, it fills you up with some, sort of external love that maybe you didn't get when you were a kid or something like that.
Yes.
But it's gone quickly.
Yeah.
The bad ones hang with you forever. I remember Cameron Woodhead from The Age, when I did Beautiful, the Carole King musical, said, Josh Pitterman is horribly miscast.
Right, sure.
And it hurts. It hurts in that moment.
Yeah.
And their job is to have a subjective opinion on whatever they're seeing. That's his duty, but it still affects.
Yes, that's it. And I'm obviously I'm taking shots at people from my, using my platform on television. So I have, I can't be too much, oh, woe is me. But at least in my head, I'm telling myself, I'm punching up, I'm going after those in authority and power and what have you. And so when something can be quite vicious towards you, you're like, I'm just a guy trying to make people laugh.
But they're punching up too. The question is, those people who did slide into your DMs with, aggression towards you, did they have an egg as a profile picture?
Yes. Yes. For a lot. That's the thing. Obviously, a lot of them are anonymous, and
that's the thing. They're always
username and a bunch of digits afterwards. But yeah, I did some stuff. Gosh, just to bring this up again, but during the pandemic, Telstra got me to do some stuff to do with 5G. Sorry, firstly, Telstra was trying to dispel a lot of the myths around 5G.
Oh, that's why COVID exists, because of 5G.
Yeah, there were two layers to it. So they wanted, so it was basically trying to reassure people that, okay, all these things about 5G that you're worried about, these are not real. And so I became Telstra's 5G chief investigator. It was sort of a bunch of sort of like comedy pieces, just putting the facts out there. But of course, if you were someone who was anti-5G, boy, you really, that those people, they shared those segments on their platform. They said, this is Mark Humphries, this is his account, and I had to shut down my social media for a while because it was unhinged. And it was, you've got
with
blood.
Conspiracy theories.
Well, you've got blood on your hands, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So you would have been subject to what's called networked abuse.
Right, okay.
And they target, if networked abuse perpetrators have a target, they will just proliferate that target with narratives that have been pre-written, and they're along the same lines, and it's instantaneous distribution is very easy now because of the technology that's available to the public. You can just click button and things are instantly sent out.
For it, but that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, it's called networked abuse.
Yeah.
I have also.
So you would have had that, yes.
Yes, but by the child sex offender underbelly would send distorted narratives of what happened to me when I was a child and doctored images of my face being, having things done to it by doctored images of a perpetrator who abused me, doing things and all sorts of nasty things. And
you've gone through so
I've also
much.
had people come to my house and, I've
Jesus,
been
okay,
chased in the car and, I had thugs come and bash on my window and call me a fucking whore and all sorts of nonsense.
Yes. Again, everything I've said sounds extremely trivial.
No, it's not trivial. It's not trivial at all because it has an effect on you.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The thing is, Mark, it's designed to. It's designed to. That there's a lot of these. Again, a lot of these, you call them criminals, you call them thugs. They do have a sort of like entry-level sort of knowledge of pop psychology, and the design behind it is to make you scared, to intimidate you into silence, to get you to back off for whatever reason,
Yeah, and at a sort of base level with social media, like that troll culture is yuck, and we've all had to deal with that. What was your way to sort of just, like, it can't just be water off the duck's back, like things do affect you, but what was your way to sort of deal with that coming at you, both with Telstra and conspiracy theorists and stuff with 657?
At that time with the Telstra thing, I also, this was when I was still married, we had children, there were things that needed attention. There were physical human beings that required my attention. So very helpful actually to have those things that you kind of just have to go, okay, you can't be spending all this mental time thinking about what's happening online. You've got human beings that need you right now. Yeah. So that was very useful. And I think, and this is most boring and obvious thing, and we've all done it. Running, it was really good to run. Exercise has been really good. You know, I'm just a big believer in that. That I think that's a kind of relatively simple thing that hopefully, I know it certainly helped me to go and just go for a run, go to the gym, do things like that, and it's just been, I've just felt so much better about that. Yeah, and that's a really basic answer, but that's what's done it for me.
Well, it's a great answer because like it leads to Grace. You also like mega running on the running
mega runner,
and I've run on and off and I'm back running again, but I think we don't talk enough about how much the physical affects the mental.
They're not separate.
They're not separate. We are what we're not just a sum of parts. We're not.
It's a really pernicious illusion, and I think that's why a lot of people struggle.
But it really does affect you like that. The chemistry creates like a run. Those endorphins are awesome.
Any kind of movement, though, because obviously running is not accessible to every individual for different reasons. But any kind of movement where you are activating those chemical processes that allow your energy systems to work more efficiently, that's going to help you deal with any kind of problem or work out some solutions that previously were inaccessible.
The thing I like about running or getting on a bike or going for a long walk or anything that involves getting out of a four-walled space is its access to nature.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, said that quote earlier about, presence is your gateway to bliss. I think nature also evokes this sense of presence within us because, sort of to quote Julia Baird, who I just love, it gives us an opportunity to find awe. And
it helps us. It helps us remember our place in the world.
Yeah. There's this symbiosis
relative to everything else.
Yeah, and I love that for nature. So when you mix exercise with nature, it's just like this double effect. So like all these sort of things are just so. They just do so much for the mind.
Well, this is another sort of angle of the connection between the body and the mind. I've had two moments in my life where my body has told me I needed to make a change in my life. And I don't know if this is something that's anyone else's experience, but when I was working, in retail, and then I snapped at a customer one day, so I ended up working in the warehouse of that company.
What did the customer say to you?
I can tell this. It was a whole. I'll try and condense the anecdote. No, do you want to?
I love this stuff.
Do we?
Of course we want it. Look at us. Grace and I are both on the side of the mic going.
There was a lady who used to come into the shop. We sold designer sort of homewares, nice gifts and things for the home or whatever. Anyway, and she would come in, and she was one of those people who decided that she was a good customer, but that's not a self-appointed title. And actually, she was a pest. And she would come in and she would haggle and argue the point over things but someone, it was also the hagglers were always the people who then had the Black American Express card, it was the people without money who would pay full price. It was the people who had money that would always haggle. And you sort of go, now I worked out how you were rich. You just never pay full price for anything. Anyway, but she came in just before Christmas one day and she walks in and I'm just filled with dread. But I do my performance. I put my mask on, the retail mask that we've all had to do. And I'm polite and lovely and, do you need any help or anything? Anyway, she says to me, she holds up a teaspoon, says, "How much for this?" And I was like, well, it's part of a set. It's a Swedish design, and it's a set of four. It's fork, spoon, knife, and then a teaspoon. The full set is $140. And she says, well, I'll give you $5 for the teaspoon. I was like, well, you won't, because then that's not even close to reflecting that if I had to break it up. But also, I'm now left with an incomplete set that I can't sell, so I can't do that. And then she said, "Get your manners." I won't name the boss, but she said, "Go get the owner of the store. She'll give it to me." And I said, "She will not give it to you. I can tell you she will not give it to you because no business reason for her to do that." And luckily I was like, and also the owner is not here. I am here and I'm telling you that you're not getting it for $5. Anyway, so she's huffing and puffing around the store. Eventually the owner of the store arrives and this woman runs up to the owner and goes, oh, he won't give me this spoon for $5. And then the owner said, of course not. Why would he? No, no, that would be crazy. No. And then she just went off to her office. I was like, oh, I felt so great. I felt so validated that my boss had backed me up and all that. And so I'm feeling quite puffed up at this point. I feel good about that. But then a few minutes pass and the owner comes back downstairs and I understand what she was thinking. But anyway, owner comes downstairs, goes over to the woman and says, I'm sorry I was rude. She picks up the entire set and hands it to her and says, Merry Christmas.
The betrayal! I feel so betrayed for you.
Judas.
Judas.
And I don't. Yeah, I know that's it. And if my former boss is listening, you know that I love you, and that there's no. It was in that moment. It really.
I don't love you. Screw you.
It was just Anyway, and so now this woman, she's puffed up. Now she's swanning around the store because she got what she wants, and then she eventually comes to the counter. And she said something which was just enough for me to go, you know what? You're not a good customer. Actually, no one here likes you. And
you had your Larry David moment.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I got it all out. This is what I talk about being an angry person.
No one likes you.
Yeah, that's it. And so, I got it all out of my system. And my boss, to her credit, sort of just came up to me because obviously she heard about it, or came up to me afterwards and just said, how would you feel about working in the warehouse? So didn't want to fire me. She's just like, I think we just need to get you away from the...
If Grace and I were there, we would have had pom-poms and we would have
I'm already I am stimming so hard right now.
Yeah, I'm so stoked for you. I'm glad you spoke your truth.
Yes.
Yeah. But your truth is your power.
Yeah. But anyway, but that was to try to get to an anecdote. Eventually, I moved into the warehouse. But anyway, eventually, as I was working in this warehouse, I did it for a couple of years. But as my friends were all going off and having their careers, they were becoming doctors and engineers and what have you. And my wheels were spinning because I thought I was going to go work in advertising, but I did an advertising degree, didn't like it. And then I was sort of now doing a retail warehouse job. And this is not a criticism or judgment of anyone who does, but I was sort of like, I did it for several years and I was just I've kind of done all that I can do in this space. And I started to sweat through the night. And this is what I'm talking about, the body telling you that you need to make a change. I would sweat through the night. And that was a really useful sign to me of you've got to make a change. Yep. And I called a recruitment office agent and said, look, I need to get out of this job. Can you get me a job in an advertising agency? Because that's what I've studied. And she said, it doesn't sound like you actually like advertising. I was like, no, I hate it, but I just need to get out of this job. She said, well, what do you really want to do? And I said, well, weirdly, I want to be a comedy writer. And she said, have you tried interning on a comedy show? And it had never occurred to me. And so the only thing that was sort of close to that at that moment was Hungry Beast, Andrew Denton's show. And so I called up that production company and said, can I come in and be an intern for a week? And they said, sure. And in that week, I met Dan Illich and Veronica Milsom and Lewis Hobber and Mark Fennell and all that team of people who I've gone on to work with loads and loads and loads of time. And that started me on my journey in that sense. But anyway, it was kind of born out of a physical thing.
Yeah.
The other one was, as my marriage was kind of becoming difficult, I woke up one morning with shingles. And I had that's the closest I'll ever be to being Phantom of the Opera. Half of my face was completely just blew up with essentially chickenpox. And that was a great sort of, again, my body just sort of saying, you are so stressed in this environment. Yep. You've got to get out. And that's...
It's so interesting. I have a really firm believer in following the flow of the universe. And I think the universe is always speaking to us, always giving us signs. It's just whether or not we have our eyes open, our ears tuned in, and our hearts open to really heed the call, listen in all facets. And when it's screaming at you like that, good on you for heeding the call.
Oh, well,
because I haven't many times in my life, and I've wound up, suffering the burdens of not.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah. I've had similar bodily wake-up calls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What
where
are
I've
yours?
pushed myself to the extreme. Well, through...
Thanks for those shares, Pierre.
Yes, thank
great.
you for those.
Really so interesting.
They definitely... Yeah. I don't like using this word, but they definitely resonate.
Yeah.
Resonate. It's one of those words like navigate.
I really vibe with that.
I really vibe with that. With an authentic connection. I really had an authentic connection navigating through that one.
Vibe always is very pharyngeal.
What?
Like it sits like Sandra Sully like to vibe.
Oh, we love Sandra Sully.
We do, but like to vibe is there.
Sure.
Whereas to resonate is much more resonant. Yeah. Anyway.
Moist.
Someone had to say moist on this episode. Thank you, Grace.
Okay.
So what are yours?
Well, this is probably going back to when I was trying to, because I think that a lot of the activities that we do and anything in our life is mirroring what we're going through emotionally, mentally. And my relationship with running has not been linear. It's certainly turned into an unhealthy vehicle for coping at times. And in 2021, I was using it as like my sole outlet, and the multi-directional pressure was in the extreme. We received a torrent of requests, and I also received so many disclosures, and I'm only one individual, and I was trying to do my best to triage them appropriately, but I was just drowning in pressure, really. And also I wasn't conscious of the fact that I was still not ready to confront certain layers of the trauma, and just running too many Ks, and my bones were very weak. And in May 2021, I fractured my pelvis in 2 places just from impact, just from overuse.
I know you've dealt with anorexia.
Yes.
Were you anorexic at this stage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've gone through long periods of anorexia. And had some time off running. I had about 12 weeks off, then got back into it. Then was 12 weeks back into running, fractured my foot in December of 2021, then switched to the bike to recover with a low-impact exercise. And then I don't know if you've seen the photos of me at the press club in February of 2022,
yes.
where nobody in the press gallery even bothered to ask me, like, why? What's wrong? I've got this massive patch of gravel rash. You can see this scar here from that, and all down my elbow, this massive scar. I cut myself up so badly all down my left side. But I had come off my road bike 9 days before that speech and snapped my collarbone.
Oh, my fucking God.
But those were my bodily signs to stop. To slow down
Yeah, we've
and
talked
take
about
a break.
it a lot on this show, and mentioned, it's probably the 3rd time we've mentioned the idea of, and talking about the universal call, the feather, the brick, and the train. And so people who are listening to this show for the first time, the universe always gives you a little feather, gives you a little brush, a little tickle to say, oi, hey, slow down, stop. And then if you don't listen to it, you'll get a brick. And it's a bit harder, a bit more full on, and wipes across the face. It might be one fracture or something. And if you don't listen to that, you will get the train.
Yes.
And the train knocks you for 6 and it forces you into a stop. And I've had it too. I had it with 2 vocal injuries over the last year, and they're both impact injuries, not like singing and getting nodules from literally getting hit in the throat, like breaks. I had a break because it's like, oi, you need to take a break. Wow. Stop.
So this is where I'm teaching myself, it's only been in the last couple of years, I'm teaching myself that there are several speeds between 0 and 100.
What?
Yeah. But
there's infinite options.
Part of why I don't register when there's the feather and the brick is because I have such a strong dissociation reflex, which is quite common for children who have especially been abused in extreme ways, because my body actually turned off, and I didn't feel, and I talked about this on the Imperfects podcast a little bit, is that I didn't feel like local sites of pain for about 5 years after the abuse, because I've got a really good visual memory. Like, I can see all of the assaults, and in fact, I'm kind of envious of some people who forget or who were intoxicated, because I remember everything visually. But my body's compromise was to go, all right, well, we're going to turn off your pain receptors. We're not going to feel anything.
Wow.
So I am really good at just going, oh, if like something's hurting me, I just go, oh, no, you can't feel that. And I think it's part of what makes me quite good at running those long distances, because I'm really good at like integrating with that pain and just sort of turning it off or dulling it really well. Obviously, that does happen anyway with running. The endorphins will help that. But I just I'm like, oh, I don't feel any pain. Like I had endo surgery. I had a laparoscopy about 4 months ago and I went back to running too soon, too quick. Like I had all this swelling in my abdomen and I did like an 80-kilometre week, like 6 weeks into my recovery.
What stage was your endometriosis at?
Stage 2 or 3. They cut it all out though. So
could you see it protruding or forming? Like
no, the tissue inflammation from the surgery.
Yeah.
I was all swollen, but I was like running and like clearly there was like all of this. I needed to slow down, but I was like, oh no, I'm fine. And then I got like my tendons in my knee were like all flaring up because my core was obviously still healing and fragile and. I had to go up for, regular checkups to the gynecological surgeon. And I told her, I was like, oh yeah, I ran 27 Ks yesterday. And she's just like, no.
So what we're screaming for here is, without projecting, is balance.
Yes,
Some
balance.
sort of in between. Do you ever get to the point, either of you, where you just go, look, it is actually all too much. Like, you've dealt with a divorce. You've dealt with...
Divorces are fun.
Yeah, they're full on. I've had one of them.
Yes,
and I mean, you've...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
right.
fist pumped for everyone who's listening and not watching.
There is a community. When I say community, it is a genuine bonding thing.
There's also a Spotify playlist, Aussie Divorce Dads.
Really? Classic.
It's just mainly like Nickelback songs. Yep, that's like top 3.
I used to own a gym for a very short period of time. And Pit Fit. And there was for any of my staff,
Amazing.
it was an immediately fireable offence if you played Nickelback. Like you got all 3 strikes for playing Nickelback on the gym room floors. It's not allowed. So yeah, I don't know, like you sort of said it's 100 or 0, Grace. Do you get those times when, I know you've been through a lot, you've got a big responsibility as an advocate, times where you just go, you know what, I don't want this. I don't want the tag of this. I don't want to have to deal with all of this. I just want to get in a hole or a cave and just close off to everything. I just need to be with me.
I'm conscious of the fact that I interrupted you earlier.
Well, it was a question for both of you.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a question for both of you. Like post-divorce, like when life is just, it's too overwhelming. Do you ever get those where you just have to go, you got to go into your cave?
Hoping that I've never reached that point. I don't think I've ever. I don't know how to completely disconnect. I've had very good friends. I think friendship. I'm very fortunate. I've had people who've known. I'm always amazed by people who knew to check in.
Yeah,
that was something with divorce, especially, that stunned me. Of just who stepped up, and it's not a criticism of anyone that didn't, but it was more just like, oh, I didn't know that person was so in tune and was so concerned and caring. There are people that I'm hugely indebted to now because in that moment they knew to reach out to me. So I can't really complain because I had a support network which I actually didn't know that I had.
But it's the times when life is just really fucking shit, where those people who do come towards you, you really know who your people are.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my best friend Clark is someone who I call. We speak every day. I have that. It's that kind of friendship, and so he's the first person to get the call, and he always takes it, and never makes me feel bad for just venting about whatever. You're
just holding space like a great friend should.
Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah, so friends, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I'm similarly grateful. I have some really strong foundational connections. My best friend Dom, who I've known since we were both 7 years old. We're both autistic. We didn't know that we were autistic at the time. We just have this sort of unspoken connection. We can have a conversation without words. And then...
and without filters probably at times.
There is no filter either direction. And my family is very close, especially on my mother's side. Yep. My mother is one of technically 9 sisters. She's got 4 older full sisters. And when she was born, the eldest was still 5 years old. So they were close in age, but also they were close emotionally. And then of the cousins, of the children of those sisters, there's 11 of us, 8 of us are girls, and we all at one point were living in the one suburb and essentially on the one street. And we kind of raised each other as these free-range children.
What a great expression.
I know, yeah. We really, and we've always had each other's backs through the toughest of times, as well as the good. So they've always been there for me. And yeah, you know, when I separated from my husband, I was in America though, but I had some really decent like core friendships. Not a lot, but you know, it's quality over quantity, I think. And I had nowhere to go, but I was taken in by Camilla Cleese actually. I've known her since I was about 19 years old. She gave me somewhere to stay. I stayed on her couch. And yeah, similar to Mark, you know, it's surprising. Like in those times of crisis, people really show themselves for who they are. I think you, as an individual, you show yourself for who you are, but similarly, the people around you show themselves for who they are, and it's the ones who reach out and you know, are prepared to walk through the fire with you. And yeah, it was people like Camilla, people like my mother as well, and my cousins who walked through the fire with me. And you know, in 2021, it was Max who walked through the fire with me. He, you know, gave up his job that he'd worked his whole life really to get, and you know, we took on the beast of the media scrutiny and the public pressure and all
government.
Of the if you can call it that. Can we call it a government? We can call it a clown show.
Yeah, call it a clown show.
We took on that, whatever it was, as a team of two, you know, and we survived. And I think, you know, we were two 26-year-old kids making it up as we went along. And yeah.
Yeah, but it was coming from a place of truth.
Yeah, and we made mistakes.
Rather than all of ScoMo's masks.
We made mistakes.
Yeah, of course
so
we did.
we should have done.
Yeah.
Wowee. You know, the human brain doesn't stop developing until about age 25, science shows us.
Yeah.
You know, and
but mistakes happen until you're dead.
Yeah.
So like, and if you're not making mistakes, then you're not
I've got
learning.
so many mistakes to make in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing it.
Like, just you wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. Guys, I want to know what quote resonates deeply with you.
Resonate.
Just as we navigate our way through the vibes of these quotes, I just really want to know what resonates with you.
Which quote has an authentic connection with me?
Which quote is organic?
Fuck.
Oh, there.
As opposed to
Well, organic is the other word.
Rice cracker quote.
Yeah, yum. And let's be mindful about these quotes. I'm just using all the...
Sure. Very mindful, very Bambi. Which quote resonates with me? It was actually from a Bettina Arndt article that she wrote about me recently.
Oh, the Bambi one?
The Bambi one.
Let's go. I want to hear the Bambi one. This cracked me up.
Oh, I'd have to get my phone, but it was something about...
Okay, you can get your phone. Mark.
Allegedly, she didn't have a quotable source because... Bettina never has a source that she can quote from. But apparently years ago she asked a prominent Australian journalist, a prominent Australian journalist.
A bit of barbecue sauce? Yeah.
What?
Well, it's just a bit of barbecue sauce. It's not a real sauce.
Oh,
That's good. Yeah.
That's a worse dad joke than I would make.
I'm going to own it. I'm going to hear and own it.
Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, apparently she asked a prominent Australian journalist why nobody had ever bothered to investigate me. I'm not sure why you would investigate me. I'm pretty open about all of the dumb shit that I've ever done.
Investigate you for what?
I don't know.
I mean, that was like the thing with the bong thing where it was just like, oh, she's this photo. So, but that was from your Instagram.
That was from my own Instagram.
And then it led to the Bambi part.
No, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, and then apparently this journalist's response was to investigate Grace Tame would be like killing Bambi.
Right.
which is really weirdly predatory.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not my quote.
What I loved about that situation is that you responded to it through a series of Bambi postures on a nice nature walk with your friends.
It hasn't ended.
Oh, I can't wait. It was really like, yeah, and then the memes of Bambi. I just really...
Yeah, and I'm about to go on my defamation tour. I think I'm going to draw some pictures to have up in the background. Classic. Maybe like Andrew Bolt eating glue. Maybe like, I don't know, some other shit. We'll see.
So that's on your actual quote. Mark, give us your actual quote.
I'm going to marinate on it. Okay, you go, Mark.
Okay. Well, one of my other favourite childhood films, I'm sorry it's a film quote, is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. And we have the same taste in film.
Yeah, that's good.
And there's a line which I find quite useful, and I say it to people and I say it to myself when something that you really hoped would go a certain way didn't go that way. And it's the scene when Grandpa Joe has somehow managed to buy a chocolate bar for Charlie. It's never explained because he hasn't gotten out of that bed for 20 years, but he somehow has a chocolate bar for Charlie. There's one golden ticket still out there, and they're up late, and they're really hoping the golden ticket's in there, and they rip it open, and there's nothing in there. And Charlie says, "I bet those golden tickets make the chocolate taste terrible." And I think that's such a... Now, there's a tragedy, there's a sadness to that line, but I also think it's quite a useful sort of, you know what? That didn't work out. You know what? Good. I'm actually glad that didn't happen because now I'm going to go do something else. I'm putting that out of my mind. Yeah, if I'd actually got that thing, there would have been all these other bad things about it. I wouldn't have even known. So that's a little kind of coping mechanism for me. And it's probably not useful to most people when I say it. I always say it in jest, but sometimes if someone's like, I didn't get that job, I always go, I bet those golden tickets make the chocolate taste terrible. That's my.
I actually love it because it wasn't for you, and it's actually
exactly. Yeah.
It gets very sort of philosophical in a sort of stoic way that like it's very Marcus Aurelius. The obstacle ends up being the way.
Yes, exactly.
So like I like that.
Yeah, crisis is opportunity, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, this is good. Grace, have you stumbled?
I've actually got it tattooed on my neck. So I win.
Do you want to just? Do you need to place that in front of the camera? What have you got there? Oh,
it's from a T.S. Eliot poem, 4 quartets. It just says.
I thought you were going to say it's from Cats, the musical. The rum tum tugger is a curious cat. Yes. That's the quote of my neck.
This just says complete simplicity. And now I'm going to quote myself. You couldn't see me miming jizzing there.
It is filmed. Have you seen the camera? So, yeah.
Well, wait, Mummy, sorry.
I'm just Bambi.
I'm just Bambi. Very demure, very minor.
Very demure, very cutesy.
Very cutesy. I don't actually get that.
No, me either, but I'm running with it.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, it's from 4 quartets, and it's this whole idea of like, returning to the beginning, and like simplicity being this underrated commodity in the world.
It is because
it's completeness.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think that's beautiful, and that'll sit really uniquely with everyone who's listening to this. Yeah.
I think everything's sort of over-egged and overdone. Especially in the modern Western world, we try to overcomplicate things, and then we end up missing the simple beauty that surrounds us.
Yeah. When you guys talked about your friendships, it's beautiful. When you talked about your friendships and the gratitude you feel for them, that's what I was thinking. That it's those really simple things in life: family, friendships, nature. We talked about, that make life special. And we go after so many big things, and it's the little simple things sometimes that are the most important.
And there is an inherent grandeur in the simplicity of life.
Yeah, I chose a Rumi quote.
Oh.
Which I think will lead us to the next part of this chat, which is, there are many ways to the divine. I choose the way of song, dance, and laughter.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Rumi always helps me along the way. You guys both have heavy loads, whether it's, what you've dealt with trauma and divorce, job losses, this, that, the other, or just getting out there and doing a lot of stuff. Grace, you've got a tour coming up called Lightening the Load.
Yes.
You've got dates in Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra, Melbourne.
Correct.
People can check that out on your website. But I want to know, how do you guys actively go about, in a conscious way, lightening the load?
Activity. laughter, maintaining good friendships.
Yep.
Rocking out to great music from the 60s, 70s and 80s typically.
We love Glenn Campbell.
We love Glenn Campbell. That's another Venn diagram between Mark and I.
Right.
Glenn Campbell, yeah.
Glenn Campbell and Robin Williams.
That's it.
Running.
Yeah.
Yep, this is good. Divorce.
Yeah. But in terms of the music thing, the most cathartic thing for me, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think you're missing out, karaoke. I love karaoke.
What's your karaoke go-to?
Yes, karaoke.
Well, there's a Bee Gees song and there's a live version.
You actually could be a BG.
Please.
I know.
Yeah.
You could be a BG.
That's it.
Just look down the camera barrel and just...
Here we are. Yeah. And so...
Please go. Please keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. It was so good.
In a room full of strangers. So yeah, no. I used to really let my hair grow out like a lion because I wanted to look like Barry Gibb. Yeah, no, I love Barry, and
this is so good. Can we keep going? How deep is your love?
Yeah. So there's a live version.
I don't have a beard, so that's my excuse.
Yeah, but you can give us a sort of sassy falsetto.
Robin didn't have a beard. You can be Robin.
Yeah, I'm Robin.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
You sung a lower.
Neil Morris. Yeah. And put a little hat on here, and but there's a live version of their song "Lonely Days," which it sort of starts out lonely days, lonely nights. It's sort of quite simple, but by the end, it's sort of like bum 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 bum, and then it really kind of ramps up. Lonely days, lonely nights. Where would I be without my woman? And that to me is the ultimate.
Got the vocal tone just down pat.
Catharsis.
So good.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Impersonations are so fucking funny. Like when they bang on like that, it kills me. Oh.
So yeah,
Okay, so
karaoke. That's my
What's your karaoke go-to?
Karaoke, I haven't done karaoke in a long time. But oddly enough, I've been in some of the weirdest situations. So I was in New York with my friend Grace, and who was the woman who played the Lady of the Lake in the Broadway version of Camelot? Of Spamalot, sorry. Was it Sarah Ramirez?
No, don't know. Linda Eder, like this.
Anyway, she's big on Broadway, Spamalot.
Yep.
Anyway, we ended up doing karaoke with her.
Oh, really?
Just, whatever.
Right. And did she sing the song that goes like this?
No, she didn't. I think I sang some Delta Goodrum just
Really?
because they put it on me because that was...
Because you were born to try.
Well, I was Australian.
Sorry,
but I'm one of those people, like, I'm terrible at karaoke, but I'll do it. Like, I'm terrible at
But
playing
isn't
pool.
karaoke you're supposed to
But
be
that's
terrible
exactly
at?
it. And I love it. I
Like,
love it.
it's rude for me to go up there.
I love making a dick of myself if it means that people will have a laugh.
Well, I think that's actually a really important part in all of this. Like, how much do we lean into self-deprecation as a way to sort of like, just like, if you can't fucking make fun of yourself, then you ain't got no right to make fun of people.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I reckon we like. The more
Make
of that,
fun
the
of
better.
yourself first. That's a rule.
100%.
Yes.
I do a lot of corporate gigs, awards nights, things. My opening line for many years was, hello, my name is Mark Humphries. Some of you may know me for the 2-minute sketches I made for the ABC once a fortnight. If you don't know me, that's because I made 2-minute sketches for the ABC once a fortnight. And so that immediately just kind of goes, okay, all right. Now that I've done that, I feel like I can now do whatever else I want to do. So I totally believe in that self-deprecation. Yeah.
I want to go to karaoke with you.
Oh, please.
I want to go to karaoke with you. I just watch.
I choose a song that's now cancelled.
Oh.
Well, I chose it and now it's cancelled. Delilah by Tom Jones.
Is that cancelled?
Yeah.
I haven't thought about the lyrics.
Tom Jones. Now you've got me.
I saw the light in the night as I passed by her window. She was my woman. There's something about like... I saw the knife in her hand, and I'm like, there's something like really.
There's some violence.
Violence in it. Right. Yeah, there's like
invokes violence.
Invokes violence. So yeah.
Right.
So it's not allowed.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
I'm not allowed to sing that anymore.
But it doesn't depict real violence because I think that would be the only reason it would have to be cancelled if it depicted real violence.
I think it does, and also maybe it depicts Tom Jones as not being your sort of sex bomb that he is. Yeah. So anyway, it's apparently
like he's a real bomb.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't sing it anymore. Apparently,
he's an airport bomb.
I did not know.
He doesn't sing it anymore.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that Tom Jones's thing.
Yeah.
I don't have many other impersonations. I can do Anthony Clear doing the prayer, and that's about it.
Wow, that's specific.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it because Anthony will kill me.
Grace knows Charles Firth. I can do Charles Firth. That's my. I can do
Arnold Schwarzenegger, but that's very niche and weird.
Come on, let's hear it.
Do it. Get down. Don't be a girly man.
So we can give you a song when we go to karaoke together, and you have to do it as Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I think that's the joy as well. Exactly. Like for those of us who don't have your vocal abilities, just kind of committing to a character, an idea, a take on a song.
Yeah, we are giving people advice here.
Yeah,
and
I made the mistake of writing in my book, or admitting in my book, that I can do the opening 2-minute monologue that Robin Williams does as Adrian Cronauer in Good Morning Vietnam, and then when I was in Perth for my book tour launch in Perth, the interviewer asked me on the spot on stage if I could do it there and then in front of 800 people, and I did. I did it.
Oh, you did it?
Oh,
yeah. Great. I was going to thought you were going to say you
well,
blanked.
it's not like you lied about it.
No,
you can do it.
I can do it.
Yeah. What a great thing to be able to do. The other thing that I just use is endless reruns of Seinfeld.
Sure.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never.
Yeah. I've been dipping back into classic Simpsons. I haven't watched it for like 20 years and just like, God, it's still good. Yeah. And there's stuff that I'm laughing at now that I didn't get at the time.
Yeah.
Holds up.
I still rate Family Guy more.
Oh, more?
Yeah, I just find it so dark and so morbid and so fucked up, and I just love it so much.
Sure.
So guys, the full ye olde Roman poet Horace quote is actually, "Seize the day, put very little trust in tomorrow."
Oh.
Yeah.
Or you could be hit by a bus. Horace knew that.
Yeah.
There were buses around.
There were so many buses, double-decker ones.
Yeah, double-decker ones. Yeah.
So I think that it evokes a strong sense of, presence. It also makes us think about our own mortality.
Yes.
But it also means that, like, fuck you, Horace, because tomorrow is where our dreams live. Yeah.
Today is where our dreams live as well, Horace.
True. But if you're going, like, you guys have achieved a lot in your lives.
One of us is.
No. You both have.
I haven't done 2-minute sketches on the ABC.
Fortnightly.
That's exactly.
Every fortnight. I just want to know, to go out, what are your dreams for the future, whether they are personal or collective?
I want to be a comedian. And I corpsed in less than 20 seconds.
Well, Jerry Seinfeld corpse on every episode.
Yeah,
He cannot get through.
That's the joy of watching it, watching Jerry laugh at the jokes.
I just love watching Jerry.
Yeah. But Grace is, I mean, we were talking about this before.
Hilarious.
Grace is so funny.
Yeah.
And so I'm thrilled with this transition. that you're,
This transition.
yeah.
Well, surely you're gonna be-
Pedophiles laughing.
Yeah, but I actually think, you are using laughter a lot, as we talked about, as a coping mechanism. That maybe Robin is going to incarnate in, attach himself to your soul, and that's Who knows?
There you go.
Who knows? But if it's a dream, put it out there. No, there's no limits on the dreams that we can put out there. No one's saying that we're not allowed to. Whether they come true or not, that's a different thing altogether. What are your...
That's an interesting question. I don't think I think about the future as much as I probably should. I'm going to listen back to this and cringe at this answer.
I can't wait for that moment. Please send me a selfie of you cringing.
It is true that, and I don't know the lady, and who knows how this is going to pan out. I must admit, Kamala Harris becoming the Democratic nominee did actually I genuinely got a lift from that of just like, because I fucking hate Donald Trump. And yes, the Democrats have their flaws and all those sorts of things, but I really don't want to see him as president again. And just seeing the Democratic campaign re-energized by a new candidate has given me a little bit of, but okay, go in, Grace.
We've got to do something about the genocide.
Yes, exactly. No, that's it. Exactly right. No, 100%. 100%.
She's got to do something to change the policies because it's just not going to change. But yes,
100%.
Obviously a better alternative to Donald Trump.
Yeah, but no, 100% on that. Absolutely right.
Yes, but agreed.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, weirdly, a little sort of political moment gave me a little bit of like, oh, okay. Because I think just Donald Trump to me is just like endorsing bullying. It's just like sort of just saying that we're okay with the people who come in and want to pay $5 for a teaspoon, you know?
It's endorsing tyrant.
Well, he's a thug. He's a thug. And this actually comes back to like, you know, and I'm loath to mention him again because if I don't want this podcast's any coverage of it to be derailed by me mentioning Scott. Whatever we want to call him, who was, you know,
the former guy.
The former guy.
He did some prime minister thing for a bit. Yeah.
If we can call it that.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I disliked the man, you know, aside from the rampant spiritual materialism and just inauthenticity, etc., is because he wasn't so much a statesman as he was a thug. And what people didn't see, although I think people could probably see through the facade, is that the behaviour that we were subjected to in private was much more akin to the behaviour that we were subjected to from the like criminal underbelly.
Yeah, right.
You know, it was the networked abuse. You know, when I first was actually essentially bullied in the press gallery into making a comment in March 2021 when I gave my first press club address, and there was a comment that was made about, you know, him needing to contextualise it relative to Jenny and the girls. And I had asked not to be talking about that because I was there to talk about child sexual abuse and grooming, which is a completely adjacent concept. And eventually I was sort of pushed into commenting about what he'd said, and I did make a comment. What happened afterwards was he set his attack dogs on me in the press, but he also sent attack dogs on me privately.
Really?
Yeah, and then when I looked at him—
In what way privately, just so I know?
Well, just that, again, that networked abuse, you know, that online trolling, awful. The volume of it was just unimaginable. The same thing when I looked at him sideways. And it wasn't sophisticated like the child sex offender underbelly often is either. It was, you know, pseudonyms like Jenny Morrison telling me that I was a slut and a whore and rude, to close my legs and to kill myself. And I think that is thuggery, and anyone associated with that has no business governing the people.
Yep. I'm with you.
That is Trump.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So I should have said something about my children give me hope for the future.
No, I love this. I love this. Like, yeah, whatever our dreams are, they should be, they're infinite. We shouldn't have to put rules and parameters around them. That's why they're dreams. Yeah, I also dream for a world where Trump doesn't have another 4 years. You know, we've lived out the dreams of that before. It's because someone dreamt it up, and someone dreamt up ScoMo's, you know, term, and maybe we never have to endure that sort of shit.
Extra group.
Yeah. I'm just tired of the mental space that Donald Trump takes up. You know, and Trump supporters will call it
I'm not tired of the impersonations. Guys, thank you. You certainly seize the day, both of you, in so many ways, in beautiful ways that are open and truthful and powerful. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for bringing us together.
And I'm so glad that this was the first time we all met, and this is the level of conversation that we had on a first meeting.
Yep.
May it long last, because I feel like to be continued on the great chats of Grace, Mark and Josh.
Divorcee karaoke coming up.
Oh, there it
Aussie
is.
divorce dads.
Yeah, Bambies do divorced karaoke. Yeah. Thanks so much, guys.
Oh, thank you, Josh. And thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Mark.